This man is about the same size as Gareth Williams. The tests he took part in showed how tricky it was for someone to get into the kind of bag that the spy was found dead in. It was even more difficult to then zip it up and lock it. It's still a mystery how the MI6 officer ended up dead in the holdall in his own bath. That's why experts carried out a range of different reconstructions. Over 100 times it was tested, but not once could they get to the stage of locking the small padlock. Expert Peter Faulding told the Inquest, "I couldn't say it's impossible, but I think even Houdini would have struggled with this one." He added, "My conclusion is that Mr. Williams was either placed in the bag unconscious or he was dead before he was in the bag." That means, Mr. Faulding said, that in his opinion, someone else must have been involved. Not for the first time in this inquest, it's evidence that throws up more questions than it answers. A police officer who analysed the computer in the flat said there were images of drag queens stored on his laptop. He'd researched bondage, and half of his internet browsing related to female fashion. The 31-year-old was on secondment at MI6 in central London. His main role, though, was with GCHQ in Cheltenham. He'd won awards at work and was highly regarded. But the coroner did hear evidence that he'd made unauthorised searches of an office database. For their part, MI6 has apologised for taking 7 days to report that he'd gone missing. Friends explained how he was a private man who didn't really join in the office social life. Inside his Pimlico flat, there was a big collection of women's clothes and designer shoes, but a friend told the Inquest she didn't think that he wore them. His former landlady in Cheltenham recalled how one night Gareth Williams shouted out for help. She and her husband found Gareth tied to a bed. He told them he was seeing if he could escape. She, though, thought the motive may be sexual. So it comes back to what happened here in the flat and how his body ended up in the bag. Forensic searches didn't show up any fingerprints on the lock of the bag. There was no obvious sign of a struggle. But small samples of DNA were found on the holdall, but they've still not been identified. They back up the theory that there was someone else involved in getting Mr. Williams into this bag. Who that was and why they did it are still unanswered questions.